A very warm welcome, everybody. We are back. It's been a month or so since we have been doing the show here with Ultimate Pool Xtra, but Scott Ryan and myself are back to discuss everything that happened at the back end of last year and start to build up the second season of Ultimate Pool Xtra and the third season of Ultimate Pool. So Scott Ryan joins me as always. And first thing, Scott, I mean, how was Christmas and New Year for you?
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. I was ill during the whole of Christmas and New Year, which wasn't ideal, but I was able to enjoy a fair amount of pool over the festive period to kind of keep me sane. Simon, I would wish you a happy new year, but you've not let me forget that I've got to take a dip into the ocean in Blackpool in January.
I mean, yeah, we will talk about the fact that you lost a picking battle and discuss that in a little bit more depth about what we're going to do about the fact that you didn't do your forfeit. But we will come on to that because there's an awful lot to talk about. We were last on a month or so ago. We've had Pro Series, Champion of Champions. We've started the 2023 season, a whole host of wildcards. I guess let's take it right back to the beginning of the Pro Series. When we were last on, we were previewing the Pro Series. And Tom Cousins finally arrived. We've been waiting for him ever since the Pro Cup last year. We were waiting for him to turn up and showcase what he can do. And boy, did he do it. He was very impressive, wasn't
he? He wasn't just impressive. It's just he seemed like he had a bit of a different demeanour, like he had a point to prove. And I think, we've both been very critical of Tom over the course of the last 12 months, but that's only because we know how good he is. So to see him lift that trophy and do it in the style in which he did it, at points he was like a steamroller through his opponents. Phenomenal to see. And it's great to see Tom back because the game needs Tom Cousins on top form.
Yeah, it's amazing what a little bit of practice does. He's actually, he said in the Players' Championship that he'd started to put the time back in. He was starting to practice. I mean, I'm not sure how much of the story we can tell about the fact that Mark Quirk, the chairman of Ultimate Pool, gave a bit of a kick up the butt and said, come on, you need to be practicing. He's taken that to heart. He started practicing. And the thing that amazed me was before the semi-finals, I interviewed him, and there was a level of confidence there with Tom that I've not seen for years. And he said, I will win. Now, he wasn't being arrogant that he's better than everybody else. He just knew that his game was now at the level as good as it's ever been, and he was ready to get back in that winner's enclosure. And that break, and he was making the game look silly easy. I mean, it's just nobody could really hang with him in Pro Series 7. It was quite incredible.
That's the scary thing. Once he gets in front of you, he is probably the best front runner in the world from a pool perspective. Once he gets that little bit of confidence in him, and once he starts performing, he can play shots that many players in the game just are not capable of playing. And listen, there's just something very magical about watching him in top gear. It's the nonchalance, as if it doesn't matter when actually it means everything. So I'm actually buzzing to see Tom back at the top end of the game. And long may it continue because he is an absolute pleasure to watch.
Yeah, he really is. Nobody makes the game look easier. He's so casual and laid back. And he actually went really, really well in Pro Series 8 as well. It took a great performance from Shane Thompson. And Shane did what he had to do, as in when you're playing Tom in that sort of form, you need to get the chances ahead of him and take them and basically say, Tom, you're not going to get enough chances to beat me in this match. And not only that, but Shane went on and won Pro Series 8 to be the first player to get to 4 trophies with Ultimate Pool. Very impressive performance from Shane to make it through to the final in a completely different way, I think, than when he won last year. He was having to come up with big shots. He maybe didn't quite have the close control that he has had, but he just showed he can win in another style.
Yeah, it's not even just that. It's if you kind of look at, I mean, we've mentioned it many times on Ultimate Pool Xtra. Shane Thompson hasn't actually done much wrong over the last 12 months. But that extra roll, that extra little bit of luck that you need sometimes to win a tournament, he's just not had. And the one thing is, I've spoken to Shane a lot at these events. He's never kind of given up the ghost in terms of his belief that he will win again. And to be fair, it was one of the most, well, it was probably arguably one of the most thrilling finishes to an Ultimate Pool tournament ever. Craig Waddingham will probably never want to see that video again. But there was a very emotional and very special moment at the end that, for me, Shane's one of the good guys on the Ultimate Pool Tour, and it's really good to see him back in the winner's circles and proves to people that he can do it out in front of a crowd, out in a tournament of the magnitude of the Pro Series, which, let's be honest, it has gone up a level over the course of 2022, and he's done it. He's a 4-time winner. He's back where he needs to be, and he thoroughly deserves it. Great player, great attitude, and just proves that if you keep putting the work in, good things will happen.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that finish against Craig Waddingham. So Craig Waddingham, who actually had a very, very good weekend himself, went deep in both events, ended up in the final against Shane. Let's show you that final couple of minutes from that great final. It was absolutely incredible scenes. And yeah, whilst we're sort of seeing the build-up here, Shane thinks he's given it away here with 1 minute 10 left on the clock. Craig's got a chance to win it. You mentioned Shane and the fact that he's actually had a very solid season. It's only the fact that he won 3 titles in year one that it felt to everyone like he'd had a down year. But he was still comfortably within the top 16. He's now elevated himself right up near the top of the rankings with this win. But it was a solid season without being spectacular. And this trophy here becomes the icing on the cake. Now, this is the key moment here. Watch this. This is absolutely incredible.
Don't miss the putt, Craig. Where's the white?
Easy enough.
Shane has never moved so quick.
Try doing that down your local club, and that's the difference of the tables that these guys play on. They're so quick, like it's very difficult to control the cue ball. Craig, I feel for him so much. Still makes me sick watching it.
Yeah, I do really feel for Craig because he had a few bad moments in the match, a couple of kicks and a couple of things go against him. And Shane actually had all the run in the match, as in he was making the play, but couldn't quite get himself over the line until this moment. And look at the clock. 1 second, the final second of the Pro Series season, and Shane Thompson does that. And that is right up with one of my favourite moments of the year. I looked to the sky because of some issues with his family members and stuff. That meant a huge amount to Shane Thompson for a variety of reasons. But that really was very, very special.
A fitting end to the season from a tour event perspective for me. The tour events have been absolutely spectacular the whole season, and that really felt like an iconic moment in the history of Ultimate Pool, and that's something that's going to be replayed over and over again, and rightly so, because had us on the edge of our seats right to the very end, and that's what you want. You want that kind of entertainment. And Shane and Craig really served it up in that final.
Yeah, for me, the whole final was fantastic. I think it's one of our best finals we've ever had. And it had moments of absolute brilliance. It had a couple of really awkward moments, Craig Waddingham, a couple of kicks here and there. But a couple of mistakes in there as well. You could feel the tension. You could feel it. The whole final was absolutely fantastic. And for me, that was the best finish we've ever had to a final. It was absolutely amazing. And two great players. I mean, it's hard to believe that Craig Waddingham didn't win a title this year. He knocked on the door so hard. But Shane Thompson, he's turned a solid season into a great season. And you have to say, anytime you win a title, it's a great season. And he's had a lot of other good runs, a couple of quarterfinals, a semi-final, and now a win. It's a very, very solid season for Shane.
And shows he belongs at the top echelons of the game. A lot of people went out and said, maybe he... no disrespect, maybe he was a lucky champion. That's never been the case. And if you knew anything about pool, you would know that. And kind of that justifies the people who have been saying for a very long time that Shane is, he's very much one of the best players on the planet. And that title kind of solidifies that for everybody out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a couple of drinks with him afterwards, and he was saying that, he was fully aware that puts him on 4 titles, and there are others on 3. Mick Hill's got 3, Chris Melling's got 3, but he was fully aware what that meant and where that kind of puts him within Ultimate Pool terms. So congratulations to Shane Thompson on taking down his 4th title. Now, the race for the number 1. It looked like it was going to be Mick Hill's to lose. He was ahead all the way, but 2 early exits for Mick Hill opened the door for Chris Melling, and he made the final of Pro Event 7. And had he won Pro Event 8, he actually would have ended up the year as the number 1. He lost out in the quarterfinals to Tom Cousins. He got Tom Cousins twice, and Tom played brilliantly against him twice. But brilliant performance from Chris to push Mick Hill all the way. but Mick Hill does end the year as the number one, and a brilliant achievement for one of the greats of the game.
Definitely. And, you know, his comeback's been nothing short of spectacular. Let's be honest, tail end of kind of 2021, people were kind of saying, will we ever see the Mick Hill of old again? He'd had some great results, but he hadn't played to the standard that we'd come to expect over the course of his brilliant career. What he's done in 2022 is kind of said to everybody, well, I am still here. I am still very much capable of winning, and I am still very much capable of dominating if that's what I want to do. All credit to Mick. I know he's not the biggest practicer in the world. He's probably not as in love with the game as he was many years ago. But when he turns up and there's a crowd in front of him, he seems to find a way of performing, which is, you know, unbelievable.
Yeah, I tell you what, at the end of the first season, you know, he finished top 10, but it wasn't a great year for a player of Mick's level. But he was all over the place mentally with the game. He didn't want to be there, and actually thought he was preparing himself to come and spend more time with Stephen and myself in the broadcasting side of things. I thought, oh, we got company for the year here. But he turned up on year two and was a different player. And he had many different conversations with a lot of different people. But I had one conversation with him at the back end of last year, and I remember chatting to him, and he kind of referenced this in an interview in the beginning of year two. He said, I said, Mick, you've got nothing to prove. You know, you've won 6 world titles. You'll go down to the legend of the sport, whatever happens from here on in. And you should go out there and just, you know, you enjoy playing, you enjoy entertaining. He loves doing his exhibitions. Go out there and just treat it like it's an exhibition. Just go out there and have fun. And he sort of referenced that, and a few other people said the similar thing to him. And he's kind of completely different mindset this year, come in to enjoy it. And all of a sudden, he's found great form and made the game look silly easy at times. And it's taken big performances all year long to beat him. Is it great to see Mick Hill back to his best and back to the number one, because, you know, his level of play, his patterns are just breathtaking, really.
And it also kind of kills a few of the naysayers who kind of said, well, some of his world championships he won, you know, the field wasn't the strongest. Well, Ultimate Pool have assembled arguably the greatest field in the history of pool, and Mick's gone out and done it again. If you watch him up close, if you see this again, and I say it must sound boring when I say it, but he can play shots that a lot of players on the Ultimate Pool circuit cannot play. And if you see him up close and you watch some of the shots and some of the ways in which he maneuvers the white around the table, that's why, you know, for me, and I keep saying it's boring now, but he is the greatest of all time because of the comeback, because people thought he was finished. You know, he's not finished.
Yeah, the genius, though, for me with Mick is how good he is at his patterns. And the statistic, one of my favourite statistics of the whole year, he played Mark Allen in the group final of the Players' Championship. Unfortunately, because of COVID, he wasn't able to take his place in finals weekend. But he missed one pot in 29 frames of pool. Now, that sounds amazing, and it is. It's a great statistic. But he probably only had one, maybe 2 pots that were actually missable in the whole of the match because his patterns were absolutely flawless. It was just a perfect control and patterns. Just meant he never had a difficult shot to play for 29 frames until, you know, Mark Allen missed and left him a difficult shot. Just an incredible player that you can be forgiven if you're casually watching that, oh, why does this guy get good leaves all the time? He doesn't. He just makes them good because his patterns are so good. It's absolutely incredible and one of my favourite players to watch for, you know, a variety of reasons. But go and study those patterns if you want to improve your game, because he is phenomenal. Let's round off the Pro Series and say Mick Hill is the number one. Now let's move on. Women's Series. I know that we've both been huge fans of the Women's Series all year. We went into the final weekend with the big argument: would it be Harriet? Would it be Amy who would finish number one? But also importantly, there was a title on the line. And you got the sense going into the tournament from the mini-series before, Amy Beecham had a point to prove, and she turned up and she really delivered. It was one of her best performances we've seen with Ultimate Pool, and she took down the title, and I was absolutely thrilled to see it because it was actually the only pick we got right all weekend long, and it was myself picking Amy in the Women's Series.
Well, actually, let's give a big shout out here to Megan Proctor, because Megan Proctor played Harriet Haynes in the semis. And that, for me, people will talk about the Waddingham versus Thompson match, and rightly so. But for pure drama, pure thrills, missed pots, just pure tension. The Megan Proctor versus Harriet Haynes games is one of the best matches I've watched all season. And Megan has somehow, she's beaten Harriet in a 6-red shootout, made her way to the final with very emotional scenes in the arena. Megan will be better from the experience of being in the final, but what Amy Beecham, wow, what a player! And we're kind of entering a bit of a golden era in the ladies' game, I feel. And Barbara Taylor joining the women's series next year is just going to make that even more thrilling. So we've got potential, we've got 4 top lady players who are going to go out there and going to entertain us. And it's going to be very interesting who finishes the top of the rankings next season. But congratulations to Amy Beecham. What a player. Silent, unassuming, just gets in, does it, and is absolutely ruthless on that stage.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said about Megan Proctor. I think she's really elevated herself, and she's put a lot of effort in to elevate herself, and she's almost ahead of schedule in her own words. She didn't expect to be where she was. She was hoping to, quarterfinal, semi-final, but to find herself in a final, and with a little bit more experience in the final like that, because she got herself in front and she had the opportunities to sort of put that one away. She didn't take them and then let Amy back in, and Amy grabbed it. Amy's probably worst match of the tournament was the final, weirdly. She played brilliantly through to the final. Not that she played bad in the final, but she made a couple of mistakes early on. But yeah, Megan Proctor, fantastic. Really looking forward to seeing how she continues her, elevation up the women's series. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Amy Beecham now, she's won twice this year. Harriet Haynes has won twice this year. Emma Cunningham won twice, both non-ranked in the mini series. We've got three women winning twice, and then you've got Barbara Taylor joining the series next year as the world champion and the world master. All of a sudden, the women's series is looking very, very special for 2023. We should round off 2022 though by saying that even though Amy did win the title, Harriet Haynes did enough to end the season as the number one player, fully deserved number one player, and she does join the pro ranks for 2023 as well. So congratulations to Amy for winning the title and for Harriet for ending the year as the number one. It was quite a big gap actually. Number 1 and 2 were a long way ahead of 3, which was Alexandra Cunha, who was number 3 in the rankings, but she was a long, long way behind. And Emma Cunningham, very disappointingly, was way down the rankings at 8th. So a disappointing year on the women's series for Emma, but she certainly looks like she ended the season strong and she'll be back for 2023. So a fascinating battle ahead for 2023. I think we're both really looking forward to that, aren't we, Scott?
Completely. And what's really great is Ultimate Pool are kind of elevating the ladies' game and giving it the stage and the platform that it deserves. Now, you get people that are quite critical of the ladies' game, and because what happens is in the pro series, a lot of the top players never miss a pot. Now, for me, sometimes that can be a little bit boring, and I like the fact that there is the occasional miss in the ladies' game, or there's slightly more tactical frames. I think you've got to look at it as a different type of pool. And my enjoyment levels watching the whole of the ladies series last year and the mini series in Daventry was absolutely brilliant. And there are potentials over the next several years to see a ladies player come through, because they're given the stage and they're given the conditions to really compete at the higher end of the pro game.
Yeah, completely agree. Fascinating to see how it's going to develop going forward. But we're seeing, the mini series, we see the tournaments from all the way through, but from the women's series, which are on the pro series weekends, we're seeing every match from the quarterfinals absolutely live across the streams. It's incredible to see the exposure the women are now getting, and they are now starting to play much better pool on the streams because of it. They're now starting to play the pool they're capable of playing. When they were on the outside tables, they're fine, but then you get one match in the end of a tournament, and all of a sudden it's not easy to go out there and play your level. And we're starting to see that happen now, which is absolutely fantastic. So really looking forward to the women's series next year. And of course, we're going to have 2 women on the pro series next year. Emma Cunningham retains her place and Harriet Haynes joins us. So 2 women on the pro series. So there'll be some storylines there as well. Harriet already has a victory on the pro series when she wasn't in the Players' Championship. She beat Jordan Shepherd and Greg Batten. So it tells you that, what we're talking about in terms of level. There's nobody better than Jordan Shepherd. So it tells you what we're talking about. Okay, Challenger Series, Scott. The minefield that is the Challenger Series. I mean, incredible, really. The number of players that played, the level of pool that was played at. Ian Alley had his best weekend of the whole season. He ends up winning Challenger Series 7, a deep run, I think, quarterfinals in Challenger Series 8 to push himself right up the rankings. A brilliant performance from Ian. I think we were all expecting something like this from him, but he had to wait till the very, very end. Beating Johan Attard in that final. Johan probably will be kicking himself even now because he probably should have won that final. He had the opportunities to put him away at the back end, didn't take it, and Ian grabbed it. But great performance from Ian, you have to say.
Well, this is the thing. People said, "Oh, well, maybe Ian's got a free roll at this because he's been announced as a wild card, so he knows his professional spot secured." I think it's the opposite, because he's not the sort of guy that wants to free roll to the line. He would have gone there with a huge amount of pressure on his shoulders, and you could see by his celebration at the end actually how much it meant to him to do it. Was too good not to win an event on the Challenger Series, and I know that that's like a really bold statement because of how difficult the Challenger Series is. Arguably harder to win a Challenger event than to win a pro event because of the sheer volume of matches and the fact that you've got to have unbelievable stamina, to make it even to the last 16. You've got to win a lot of matches. But listen, Ian is an absolute class act, and if anybody had any doubts about his wild card, just kind of, see him up close and see what he is actually capable of. He is one of my favourite players to watch, and I am really looking forward to see. He's going to take a lot of scalps on the Pro Series next year. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that, obviously that the decision to announce him as a wild card quite early by Ultimate Pool, I think, they probably they've shown by they didn't announce any other wild cards from the Challenger Series until after the season. Just shows that they're going to make mistakes, Ultimate Pool are, but they're going to learn from them, and that, I guess, was one of them. And whether it made any difference to the players that Ian was playing or not, I think it's an excuse more than anything else. Yeah, you can argue that he wasn't playing for his promotion, but he was still wanted to win the title, and there was still a huge amount of money to play for. I don't think that the fact that the pro meant any difference.
But Simon, let's be honest. Announcing Ian Alley as a wild card, Ian Alley had literally just beaten an Ultimate Pool professional who has won 2 tournaments this year for a significant amount of money. For those who are really into their pool, who Ian Alley is. It's self-explanatory. It was kind of a bit of a shock that he wasn't a pro in the first place because he's got this formidable record. For money, actually beat Shane Thompson as well, albeit with a small start. Everybody knows how good. If you're into your pool, you know how good Ian Alley is. So from that perspective, I think that maybe from an Ultimate Pool marketing perspective, they were looking at the victory he had over Stevie and thought that they would announce him. But listen, there's more pressure. There's probably more pressure on him, the fact that he had been announced, because you know what the pool world's like. People will be making their little jokes and, I can't. The professional's definitely going to beat me. So then that puts the pressure on Ian to perform. So fair play to Ian. He was a very popular winner over the weekend. And my understanding is the bookies took a bit of a hammering on site in Blackpool because a lot of people backed Ian that weekend.
Yeah, great performance. And I do agree with you. I think in some ways it has more pressure on him. So, not going to argue. He fully deserved to be announced as a wild card. It's just great that he proved he should be by a quarterfinal and a win. Just really shows that he absolutely should have been. And whether it happened at the right time or not, we can debate. But it has happened. And congratulations to Ian Alley. Now, if Ian Alley was, I wouldn't say expected to win, but certainly we expected some good runs from him this year. Peter Mullaney is one that has just jumped out of the pack from absolutely nowhere. Peter Mullaney has come along. He has won Challenger Series 8, beating Matt Brealey in the final. And the big dog, all of a sudden, gets himself his hands on a big title, great prize money, and is now a professional for 2023. It just shows you, how one great performance can really change your pool career, really. He's elevated himself into somewhere where maybe he wasn't really expecting to get to. Certainly, I don't think there was too many people sort of going, he should be given a wild card. He has jumped out of the pack.
And that's the beauty of the Challenger Series, is if you perform and you put the performances in, believe me, what he's done that weekend is nothing short of spectacular. It is incredibly difficult, as I said, to get to the last 16 of one of these events. So he didn't just play good stuff in the final, he played good stuff throughout and beat some really good players along the way. So fully deserving. If you can win, and we've seen it, in terms of some of the guys who won on the Challenger Series last year, if you can play in that environment, then there is absolutely no reason why you can't win matches as a professional, go deep. Win. I mean, look at Chris Day. He was on the Challenger Series last year, made a world final this year. So the opportunities are there, and just goes to show the standard has improved on the Challenger Series this year. Make no mistake about it. It's far harder to win on there this year than arguably it was to win last year. So a massive congratulations, and goes to show that if you're a good amateur, you've got the platform to become a professional in ultimate pool. It's just up to you to take the chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And yeah, twice as many players on it this year as well. Just shows so much. You've got to win 11 matches to win a title on the Challenger Series against a Shark Tank. So many great players. Yeah, you're not maybe missing 20 or 30 of the best players in the world, but you've still got an incredible field that in races to 6, as it is for the majority of the tournament, good luck. There's some great players that got nowhere near that top 16. One player that did, though, Callum Singleton, he finished the year as the number 1. Brilliant performance from Callum, and he knew, because he won early in the year and his rankings were so good early in the year, he knew he was going to be a pro come the end of the year. And this has a very similar vibe to Craig Waddingham from the year before. Callum Singleton is so good. He's a former WEPF World Master. He's a guy that wins, has won a major title. A lot of people expecting him to do what he did, but he's gone and done it. And what credit to him, and what confidence that will give him going into 2023 as a professional. The fact that he did, he got his professional status this way. He could have, I think he may have even been offered in year 1, status, and he didn't take it for whatever reason. He's now gone and earned it, and I think he's going to be, of everybody that's being promoted from the Challenger Series, he's the one to watch out for me, because he's shown it this year by being number 1. But what we know about him, also his calm and composure and his ability on the table, what a player.
Terrific player. He's also a very marketable player. He's a really nice guy if you get an opportunity to have a chat with Callum, but he can really play. And yeah, like you, I was shocked he wasn't pro the year before, but he's gone through, he's earned it, and he's earned it the hard way. As we've said, not easier on the Challenger Tour. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next year, because I think it's going to be a big year for Callum.
Yeah, I think he could really jump up, and he's one of those players that can, top 16 absolutely could be knocking on that door. He's one of those sort of players. He really is an exceptional player. Really excited to see how Callum goes. But huge congratulations to Callum to be the number 1. And it's a bit, for me, it's so similar to Craig Waddingham. People go, oh, well, Craig Waddingham, he's a great player, he's a world-class player. Yeah, of course he should be the number 1, but you've still got to go and do it, and you do it by winning a lot of matches against a lot of very good players. So congratulations to Callum Singleton. We're going to talk about Callum a little bit more later on as well, because there's a little bit of a moment of the year which we'll come back to. Let's show you the top 16 then from the Challenger rankings. This is how the top 16 ended up. Callum Singleton was the number 1. Ian Alley pushed himself all the way up to number 2. Johan Attard, who, great player from Malta, arguably one of their very, very best. Josh Corkett, Jez Graham, Neil Britton. Peter Mulaney's pushed himself all the way up to number 7. Cameron Tolley, Andy Williams, Matt Brearley, Richie Oliver, Connor Jones, Lewis Roberts, Aaron Priest, Matt Cook, and Ryan Marcus. Now, all of those 16 players have earned professional status for 2023. 15 of those 16 have accepted. Aaron Priest has decided not to take his professional status for next year, which is a shame, because when we saw him earlier on in the year, he was a player I really enjoyed watching. But hopefully we get to see more of Aaron in the future. But some big names in that list, and some that were a surprise, maybe, that we weren't looking at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but you're always going to get that, Simon. I mean, there are players out there that are phenomenal players that perhaps have never had the stage in which to find their way as a professional, or the path to being a professional wasn't the easiest to find. But you go round those Challenger weekends, and sometimes I'll watch a dozen matches on the Challenger, and I'm always astounded by the quality, because there's some of these guys that you'll watch, and you'll be thinking, why aren't they a professional already? And then you'll go and watch the next match, and they'll get beat by somebody even better than the performance that they've just given. So, you know, like I say, all credit to Ultimate Pool for giving people the opportunity to find their way as a professional. There are some names, obviously, that stand out there that we're going to expect to be doing good things next year. But the Pro Series just got an awful lot more difficult. And I'm not just talking about the other wildcards that have been announced over the course of the last few months, but those challengers aren't going to fear any of these professionals. You know, mark my words, they're not. And the difficulty level in the Pro Series is becoming a Shark Tank in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to complete the lineup for the Pro Series over the course of the next week. We're going to go through most of the wildcards to be announced in a second as well. But yeah, the players that I think the biggest thing, because Ultimate Pool have now put a platform together that players, you know, we've seen so many great players, and Pool World is in a great place because so many players can play to an exceptional level. But the platform Ultimate Pool have now given, players are now putting the time in, because even if you're not a pro, the money that you can win on the Challenger Series is real. You know, you look at someone like Jez Graham. I think he's upwards of 20 grand this year as an amateur pool player. That's incredible. It really is, and it just shows you what you can do, and it's worth putting the time in. And a lot of players now are making it an amazing spectacle, amazing place to play, and what a challenge it is for everybody that wants to go out there and play in it. And you know, wow, I'm fascinated to see how the Challenger Series is going to go over the next few years, because there is so many players that want to be a part of it. It's a very, very exciting time. You mentioned those are the wildcards. So after the Pro Series weekend concluded, there was a whole host of other wildcards from the Challenger Series that were announced. Now let's have a look at that list of players. Cole Bedford, Ryan Fleming, Mark Fleming, Gary Clark, Chris Hampton, Ben Flackley, Thompson, Amir Riyad, Dave Fernandez, Vivek Mack, Phil Parkin, Cormac Kerr, Jason Waters, and Osama Masini. Some players I fully expected. Some players, you know, like your Ryan Fleming, he won an unranked event on the Challenger Series. If that was ranked, he'd have been right up there. You know, you've got other players like Cole Bedford, who's sort of rising through the ranks. Players like Amir Riyad, who's one of the best players in Morocco, didn't really show it on the Challenger Series this year, but absolutely, in my opinion, should be on the series, on the Pro Series. Some names maybe we weren't quite expecting, but you know, it's a great opportunity for all of them to show why they have been selected.
Let's start actually, because when this came out, and you know, Simon, we're really lucky. I don't think that the powers that be watch Ultimate Pool Extra, so we can pretty much get away with saying what we want without fear of being fired. So there was a lot of stick on social media. Let's not hide. Let's not go away from that. That's the reality of it. And the person, believe it or not, and people were saying, well, the 285th ranked challenger has been elevated to be a professional. Now that's Amar Riyad. Now, if you know your pool in an in kind of a bigger level, one event earlier last year, I think he beat 2 or 3 Ultimate Pool professionals in that tournament. I think he got beat in a semi-final by an Ultimate Pool professional. If you actually know your pool, take that one aside. He's arguably the best player in Morocco. He's just won a huge event out in Morocco, and for the stick for him to be getting, obviously they didn't. People don't know who he is. He's somebody who's going to do some damage on the Ultimate Pool Pro Series. The other thing as well, I think he only turned up to 2 events. He was quite unlucky. I watched one of his matches in Birmingham. Honestly, I kid you not, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, it was just as simple as that. He reached the final of the 3-man team event as well, carrying my podcast partner Dan Wells to the final, where they were narrowly beaten by our fan Dad's team. He's got terrific pedigree. He's a really great player, and he is one that perhaps the abuse he got on social media he didn't deserve, because he's one that probably, you know, if you were going to be critical, there were probably other people that you could have been critical of, but Mr. Riyad was not one of those people that you could be critical of.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I've been out to Morocco. I've seen the passion for the game out there, and he's one of the best, if not the best player I've seen from Morocco, and his ranking on the Challenger Series does not express his level of play. And like you say, didn't turn up to all the events because traveling over from Morocco isn't easy. And yeah, you can get a tough draw, you can have a big bad match, and all of a sudden you're 285th in the rankings. Don't get me wrong. I understand the argument people are looking at going, well, he would finish nowhere near the top 16, doesn't really deserve it. Well, I disagree. He does deserve it. He's one of the best players in his country, and he fully deserves it for that reason for me. And that's the whole point of having wildcards. So, abuse for Amir is completely unfounded. And maybe there are some players on there that, personally I wouldn't have picked, but that doesn't matter. They're all on there for a reason. And now they're given an opportunity to go and really grab it and prove to people, like you said with Ian Ali, maybe he had more pressure because he's got to prove that he deserved the wild card pick he got. Well, some of these players maybe have that feeling now themselves as they start their journey with the Pro Series. But good luck to everybody that has been promoted with a wild card, and fascinated to see some of them are going to go well and some of them maybe not. But we'll find out, and that's going to be fascinating. That's sport for you. And I'm really, really looking forward to the season ahead. We have got a couple more wildcards that were announced outside of the challenges as well. So let's have a look at those. Luke Vokes has been announced, Welsh player, been a huge part of the Welsh international team for a number of years. A very, very good player. No surprise to me to see Luke announced as an Ultimate Pool professional. I think he'll go very, very well. Lee Anderson, another player, comes in from Blackpool. He has been a pool professional before with a previous organisation in the Blackpool side of things. So a player, and he wasn't just a professional. He got quite close to the top 10. So a player that has ability. We've already seen a little bit of him actually, where he played some great pool, some very eye-catching pool. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Lee goes for the season. And then our final wildcard announcement that we can bring you now is the one I was probably most excited about. Liam Dunster, arguably by so many people, one of the very, very best players in the world. A lot of people will have him as the best player in the world. Now he's playing on the biggest stage there has ever been. He can now go and prove it because he's playing against all the very best players in the world. How exciting is that, Scott?
Listen, I'm going to just say it. I mean, he's the reigning IPA world champion. He is. I've watched him up close many times, and I will honestly say this. I remember watching him in one match where he's won 8-1. He did not miss a single ball. He finished every single opportunity that he got. Now, he's had a couple of bad results already in Ultimate Pool by his own high standards. Don't let that fool you. It's going to take him a little bit of time to adapt to the conditions. It's going to take him a little bit of time to adapt to the changing rules. But believe me, if he is a perennial winner, he is somebody who's prepared to put the hours in, prepared to put the time in. And I am expecting big things from Liam Dunster in 2023. If you're not too familiar with his game and how he plays, a lot of people have said he's very boring, he's very methodical. Well, you spoke earlier about Mick Hill in terms of his patterns and the fact he rarely leaves himself a difficult shot. Well, Liam Dunster is cut from that same cloth. He won the Supreme Series Grand Final, which, was an absolutely unbelievable performance from him. He's won so many tournaments over the course of the last, 5 years. He is going to be box office for Ultimate Pool, and I cannot wait to watch him when he's in full flow.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the thing I'm excited about, and I said this to him because he did play in the Masters. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but he didn't go his way. I'm fascinated. Now, he has played, and as you said, he won in the Supreme Series, so he's won at this rule set, but he has made his trade over the last, 10 years or so in Blackpool rules, and he is the best exponent of the rules, as in he has looked at every single detail, and there is no better tactician in the game than Liam Dunster. Now, he has all the ability in terms of the breaking and the dishing ability of anybody else in the world as well, but he has the tactical ability. Now, he's been applying that tactical ability at Blackpool rules. Now, if he concentrates and studies international 8-ball rules and he starts to develop that same sort of skill level, which he absolutely will, then I'm excited to see what level of tactical play he's going to bring to it, because this game isn't all about clearing up. Yes, the top players do it at a very, very high level, at a very high percentage, but every time they go for it and they don't get it, they tend to lose those frames. Now, Liam, when he goes, he tends to get it, and I'm very excited to see how he develops his game to this rule set. He, like you said, give him some time. He's got to adjust. It's a completely new environment to play in. It's a different cloth than he's been playing on for a few years as well, which is one of his, he said himself, is one of his biggest challenges, is adapting to the new conditions and adapting to the new rule set. Even though he's won at them in the past, it's not, it's not how he thinks. And at 30 seconds a shot, 15 seconds a shot, you need it to come instinctively. But watch out, because he really is that good. There's no doubt he was the best player in the Blackpool side of things. Now he's come across. And as I said, I think that the best way to describe, a lot of people have him as the best player in the world. Well, he needs to now go and show it on the biggest stage there has ever been. But give him a little bit of time and he will really impress. There's no doubt about it. He will get there.
Totally agree, Simon. Not often I agree with you, but I think we both appreciate how good Liam is. And what you've got to realise as well is the international rules have kind of evolved since Ultimate Pool. So when Liam played on the Supreme Series, they hadn't been played that much in this country. So, that showed how quickly he adapted to them for that tournament. And he will adapt to Ultimate Pool very, very quickly. There's something enigmatic about him. He's unassuming. Like I say, I've seen him at events where he's down practicing at 7 o'clock in the morning. He does everything right. You won't see him with an alcoholic drink in his hand or a cigarette in his hand. He is a professional in every sense of the word, and really looking forward to seeing what he does this season.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Now, if you've done the maths, the Pro Series for 2023 will be 96 players. That's 94 that we have discussed. All the players that have played, all the ones that are promoted, all the wildcards that have been promoted, and all that. That's 94, which means that we have 2 more wildcards to announce. Now, I think we both know who those 2 wildcards are. We're not allowed to say. Ultimate Pool might give me a little kick up the butt if I give too much away, but I can tell you they are 2 big names. Maybe a multi-sport player and a former world champion. All to be announced in the next week or so. I believe it's going to be announced within the next week.
Would that a former world champion at Pool?
A former world champion at Pool, yes. Can't say any more than that because I'm going to get told off. I'm probably going to get told off for saying that as it is. But yeah, watch this space over the course of the next week. The 96 will be complete. Exclusively can say though, Scott, it's neither you or I. And I've been waiting for 3 months to get the nod, not come.
Well, I'll put my application in. 2019 Derby Invitational champion, still reigning, still undefeated in that tournament. But no, not good enough, I'm afraid.
The way I've taken it is that I must be too valuable in the commentary box, that they can't lose me to be a player. So I've taken the positives, trying to spin everything.
Well, I'm not too valuable sat here. And after us in the commentary box, Simon, I'm certainly not valuable in the commentary box either.
Oh, I forgot we did some commentary together. Yeah, no. Oh, what a moment that was. So that is the 2022 season. Anything else you want to talk about the 2022 season? Actually, the one more thing I do want to mention, Scott, just briefly, is that the top 28 was the key number from the Pro Series. John Rowe was the unlucky man. He finished in 29th place. I feel really heartbroken for John because he's one of my favourite players on the tour. A couple of players I thought were surprising not to be there. Chris Day, I thought, might elevate himself in there following the World Championships, and Josh Kane, I thought, might get himself into the top 28, and he's disappointed because he's outside. But it's a tough school out there, I guess.
Josh Kane in particular, and I'm going to listen. John Rowe, an absolutely terrific player, former world champion. He'll certainly be back. Chris Day certainly will be back because of the dedication, and that they put the time, they put the effort in. But Josh Kane's a really interesting one for me. Now, you know how much of a fan I am of Josh Kane. I love the way he plays. I think he's so exciting. I think he's, from a pure pool perspective, he's incredibly marketable as well because he's a really nice person, and he's a good-looking guy. He is somebody out there who could do really well in the game of pool, but he's got to ask himself this question: is that what he wants to do? Because I don't think he's as dedicated to pool as he possibly could be. Now, if he puts that dedication in, there's no end to his talent. He's an absolutely terrific player who can go out there and win on the big stage. He's proven it in the past. He's got decisions to make in his head. Is he going to be dedicated? If he's dedicated, he'll do well. If he's not dedicated, it's just going to be a continual slide down the rankings for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, big year, I think, for Josh Kane coming up. How does he want to approach this season? He certainly has the talent, but he was one of the players that I was surprised to finish outside the top 28, which means he's going to have to do it the hard way. As we do know, the top 28 plus 4 of the wildcards, which are going to come from the snooker side of things, I believe, is the way I understand it, will make up the top 32 of each tournament. So everybody outside the top 32 is going to have to win a match to make the last 64. I hope that makes sense. I think it does to me. Scott, anything else from the 2023 season? I have one more thing I want to bring up, but I'll do that after you if there's anything you want to bring up first.
Listen, just what an incredible year overall. It's just great to see Pool, finally get the platform that it deserves, and it feels like it's in safe hands. 2023 has got to go some to top 2022 for me.
Yeah, I think I said 2023. I meant 2022, but yeah. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about from the 2022 season is one of the biggest injustices from the 2022 season for me. We had a picking battle all year long. I won. I deserved the win. I thought I was exceptional. You got closer to me than I thought you would. But there was a forfeit on the line, a little dip in the ocean. It may have been the coldest week of the year, but I noticed there was no dip in the ocean from you. What's happened, mate? What's going on?
Well, unfortunately, there was so much action to capture in Blackpool that the TV crew were unavailable. Thank goodness, on the coldest weekend of the year, it was actually snowing. They weren't available to film. So unfortunately, I'm a man of my word.
I had people coming up to me throughout that weekend, going, are you really going to make him do it? It's dangerous out there. And I think it would have been super dangerous if you'd done it. And I was all ready to say to you on the Sunday, I was going to say, look, come on, it's too dangerous. Let's set another date and do it when it's at least not going to kill you. And you were nowhere to be seen. I didn't see you, disappeared on me. So I'm disappointed in that.
I spoke to the camera guys. I was like, look, what time do you want me here? I gone and bought a special pair of shorts from the merchandise stand. What time do you want me? And they were like, not going to get it done today, Scott, unfortunately, mate. And I was like, so I've got to do it in January.
Yeah, so we are back up there in a couple of weeks' time for Pro Series 1 and 2 from 2023. So we are going to do it. Don't worry. Scott Ryan did lose the picking battle. I can't say that enough. I won the picking battle in 2022, so Scott will be doing the forfeit. So watch this space. We will film it, and we will show it to you when it happens. But Scott, are we up for doing it again? Are we going to have another picking battle for this year?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're really lucky. We've got an honest director in Jesse. What a great guy Jesse is. And Jesse has already told me that I was literally robbed out of last year. So Jesse is here to make sure that this is done correctly, that this is done fairly, and Simon, you will lose this year.
Okay, right. So we're going to do it. We're going to alter. So I think the reason you think I cheated is that we were on different wavelengths in terms of how we were doing it.
Jesse's got facts. Yeah, Jesse's got the facts. It's fine.
We are going to alternate each. So when we have the Champions League, you pick week 1, I pick week 2. We're going to alternate on that competition, and then the same on the other competitions as well. We haven't decided what the forfeit is this year, but if you've got any ideas at home, make sure come and contact us on social media. Let us know what you think we should do as a forfeit this year. What should it be? It will be in December. We will film it, whatever it is. And we'll each come up with a few ideas as well. And we'll talk about that over the coming weeks. But we'll start on Monday with the Champions League coming up. We'll have that pick in a minute. But yeah, we're going to do the picking battle again. You're 1-0 down, whatever happens, because I won year 1. So get in there. Oh, what a reaction that is. Okay, we've missed an awful lot of other action as well, other than the Pro Series. We also missed the conclusion of the pairs. One of my favourite stories of the year when we completed the lineup for the pairs final, father and son duo, the Max, Vic and Vivek, made it through to finals night. What a story that was. Brilliant to see them in finals night. Absolutely fantastic for them to come through. And they came through the hard way. I mean, they had to beat Arfan Dad, Craig Waddingham, John Rowe, Lewis Roberts, and Chris Patient, the King Pigeon, and Darren Appleton to make it through. And whilst we're talking about Darren Appleton, we just want to sort of wish him the best as he continues his recovery. Really hard times for Darren over the last couple of weeks, but it does sound like there's positive news coming and he's starting to make his recovery. So all the best with that, Darren. Hope to see you back on the table as soon as possible. That took us to the group final, and it was Gareth Potts and Mark Selby that ended up winning. But what a night it was! Incredible standard, you have to say, across all four pairs. Absolutely brilliant drama as well.
Yeah, it all built up to that, and you've got a feel for Sean Chipperfield and Carl Sutton. What a valiant effort in defending their title, and it just fell agonisingly short. But listen, Mark Selby, Gareth Potts, formidable team, absolutely formidable.
They were fantastic. They probably should have lost in the semi-final. They were kind of let a little bit off the hook, with tiny amount in terms against Chris Day and Sean Story, who won the opening set. Then they won. Then Gareth and Mark did what they do, and they were brilliant in set two, absolutely flawless. But in that shootout, you felt that Sean and Chris should have set an unbeatable time. Sean missed the easiest ball he's probably missed in his whole pool career. And then Chris tried to make a combination shot, and we had a good debate about that afterwards in the bar. But I think it comes down to the shot that Sean played that kind of cost them really. But because they were sort of given a time they could beat, then Gareth and Mark did beat that time in fine style, and then in the final they were incredible. They were flawless. To put it into context, they were a set and 2 frames up before Carl Sutton had played a shot. That's how good they played. They took every chance that came their way. And you have to say, you mentioned it, credit to Carl Sutton and Chippy, who were deep in the hole, and they dug really, really deep to get themselves back in with a chance. And they had a chance to clear up in the final frame. If they'd taken that, it would have got them into a 6-red shootout from absolutely nowhere. Incredible standard across all the players, but it was Gareth and Mark's night. Congratulations to them. I have to say, the pairs is a format that people in the street I bump into, people that know what's going on in the pool will tell me they absolutely love. I think that certainly from the last 5 weeks, the second stage onwards, the quality on the table was insane. The drama from week 1 was amazing, but the quality matched with the drama. I love the event.
Yeah, it is a great event. It's something different. We're not used to seeing that type of pool. So nothing's better than a bit of a change of format for people to enjoy and to see something different. And that's kind of another good thing for Ultimate Pool. We do get to see different formats and different types of matches. The only thing is, that's a time where a 6-red shootout is a really good spectacle, is when there's something huge riding on it. And if I were to say one thing for Ultimate Pool for next season is let's have the 6-red shootouts mean something, because they're a lot better when there is something big riding on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. The 6-red shootout we had in that finals night, which came, it was the perfect ending to a fantastic match. And it really fitted really, really well. But overall, the pairs is one of my favourite formats to work on. Love commentating on it, love the drama of it, and it will be back end of the season. I think it's scheduled to start sometime in July, somewhere around then. We've got other tournaments to happen before then, but really excited to see the pairs back. But congratulations to Gaz and Mark for taking down year 2, and some defence from Carl and Chippy as well, getting all the way through to the final. That brings us to our final event of the year, and it was the Champion of Champions shootout, a one-day event in shootout format for all the Pro Series and Challenger Series winners. Because Mick Hill won 3 events on the Pro Series, it did open up the door for Gareth Potts to get in via the rankings and Stevie Dempsey to get in via the rankings as well, although Stevie won 2 titles, so kind of felt right that he was in the tournament. He certainly deserved to be. But in the end, it was Tom Cousins who continued his hot streak, taking down the title, beating Jack Whelan in the final. A great day's pool. I do love the Champion of Champions. I love shootout pool. The Champion of Champions, we get to see some great players who have earned their place there. Great prize money on the line as well. And what a week it was for Tom Cousins. He won an awful lot of money in 2 titles in a week.
Yeah, it would have been a good Christmas in the Cousins household with that extra prize money. I think it's like 27, 28 grand in 2 tournaments over the course of the tour weekend and the Champion of Champions. That's not a bad way to finish a year. But listen, he did play some awesome stuff all weekend. He did ride his luck a little bit. Let's be honest, but overall, brilliant to see him back. And Jack Whelan giving us a little taste of what was to come in the future too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. I don't think you can win a shootout without having a little bit of luck along the way. I don't think you can win any tournament without having just a smidge of luck along the way as well. But Tom Cousins certainly was taking his chances. The thing I found fascinating in the shootout is Tom Cousins is so against being involved in a six red shootout. I was I was thinking, how is he going to get through this tournament without being involved in a shootout one way or another? Because it looked like it was going to happen two or three times. He managed to do it, and he managed to get there in the end. But a great, and I just want to touch on what you just said. The amount of money that he won in I think it was an 8 day span. Who would have thought that would ever happen in the pool world? You know, we're talking about, you know, this is the sort of money that some people win in a year or earn in a year, and he won it in a week. I mean, incredible to see finally the pool world starting to edge in the right direction when it comes to prize money.
It should, and it's a great spectacle sport. I think that kind of historically, pool's kind of looked at its own self-worth and thought that it's not really worth much. Now, you know, it's an incredible sport, and there are so many people playing pool up and down the country that, you know, it's right that people are starting to who reach the top of the game, and, you know, even top amateurs, as you alluded to earlier, are rewarded for their efforts, because it's a great spectacle. It's particularly the shootout format works really well for TV, and why shouldn't pool players in the future earn the same money as darts players or snooker players?
Yeah, absolutely. We're certainly tracking in the right direction. You know, he won 15 grand for winning the shootout, and that's 16 players in the event, and there's no entry fee. And notoriously in the pool world, you know, most of prize pots are made up from entry fees, and this wasn't. It's certainly showing where Ultimate Pool are going, and it's very exciting, certainly on that perspective. So that is all the tournaments done for 2022. Let's have our own little mini presentation of what we think is Player of the Years and Moment of the Year. So let's start with our Player of the Year. Scott, who are your sort of main contenders for Player of the Year?
Well, Tom Cousins flung himself right in at the end there, didn't he, with the two tournaments in a row. But I want to talk about Stevie Dempsey, because he is really a bit of an unsung hero when it comes to Ultimate Pool. When the season started, he certainly wouldn't have been expected to be anywhere near the latter end of a tournament, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. What he's done is shown, if you put the work in, the hard work in, and the dedication, you can achieve great things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done a little bit of filming with Stevie over the course of the last couple of weeks as well. And I have to say, you know, he's really elevated himself up the game, but his touch is exceptional. I'm really impressed with his touch on the table, on a really, you know, tough table to have that sort of feel on. He's very, very good, and, you know, watch out for him. He'll be disappointed with the year he had on the Pro Series, but he won 2 tournaments, and he also made the semi-finals of the shootout. And he almost took down a huge amount of money in 3 tournaments. You know, he still did, but if he had gone on to win the shootout, you know, wow, what a 3 tournaments that would have been. When it comes to Player of the Year, I always try and put it into sort of perspective of which player's year would I like to have had. You know, you've got Stevie Dempsey, he won two major tournaments, obviously made the semi-finals of the shootout as well, disappointed in the Pro Series. Tom Cousins, he won 2 events back to back at the end, but made the final, the first event of the year, another great season. Chris Melling, who was just consistent all the way through, won an event, but knocked on that door all the way through, pushed Mick all the way. But how can you not want
Wait a second.
Mick season?
What about Ronan McCarthy? He had the year of years, didn't he?
Well, he did have the year of years, and this is the thing we have to talk about, is when we're talking about this, who's our Player of the Year. Ronan McCarthy won the World Championships, he won the World Masters, he won the Players Championship, and he won a mini series in the Northern Ireland event on the back end of that as well as winning the World Team Shootout. Now, when we're talking about Ultimate Pool, he won the World title and the World Masters. That's outside of Ultimate Pool, if you like. So are we including that? Because if we're including it, then I'm going Ronan. If we're not including it, then I'm going Mick Hill. He won 3 tournaments on the Pro Series this year, and for me, he's the Player of the Year for that reason. But if you're going to include the World Championships, how can you not pick Ronan McCarthy?
No, I agree with you there, but I do think it's really important just to emphasise, because, you know, arguably you could put Harriet Haynes into the mix as well, because Harriet Haynes won the Black Ball World Championships this year,
Yeah.
and has kind of dominated on the Black Ball side as well. But I think we've got to stick to Ultimate Pool. I think we've got to stick true to ourselves, and the fact the show is called Ultimate Pool Extra as opposed to WEPF Pool Extra. Listen, for me, my pick would be Mick Hill. That's only because of the fact he's came. You know, as we said, he didn't have a great year in 2021, but's come back in 2022 and kind of proved his point. You know, and for me, solidified himself as the GOAT.
Yeah, the number one. Finished number one in the rankings, 3 titles, which is more than anybody else. With Ultimate Pool, obviously, Ronan had that unbelievable streak. And yeah, I mean, I would have, everybody would kill for Ronan's year. But when we are talking about Ultimate Pool specifically, Mick Hill is our tip for, is our player of the year. We should just quickly mention Women's Player of the Year. I think there's 4 candidates here. Scott, I don't know how you feel. Emma won twice, Amy won twice, Harriet won twice, if we include the mini-series. Barbara Taylor won the World Championships and the World Masters, which we have to include in terms of picking it. But I don't think, for the same reasons we're not picking Ronan McCarthy, we're not going to pick Barbara because she's not part of the Ultimate Pool scene, but she will be for next year, which is exciting. So for me, it's between 3. Which way are you thinking?
I could make cases for all 3. All credit to Emma. She looks like she's back enjoying her pool again, and that makes her a very dangerous quantity. Amy, she's just so consistent, and she goes about her business just so quietly, but plays great stuff. Listen, I'm struggling to look past Harriet, and the reason why I'm struggling to look past Harriet is plays the game just in such an attacking way, and looked for all intents and purposes like she may well dominate the entire year on Ultimate Pool. Has finished as number 1. Has, as you mentioned earlier, taken out 2 top pros at the Players' Championship, which was unbelievable and kind of, was a great advert for the ladies' game to show that they can compete at the top end of the men's side of the game as well. So for me, it's Harriet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going for Harriet as well. So I think we're unanimous on that. Agree with you. Everything you said. She finished number 1 in the rankings. Therefore, she's had the most consistent season on the women's series. Yeah, she didn't quite go as well in the mini series as she'd have liked, but she won 2 big ones on the women's series. She also became world champion on the Blackpool side of things at the beginning of the year, which I know is outside of Ultimate Pool, but I know it's winning a match here or there shouldn't matter, but beating 2 Ultimate Pool professionals, 2 top 16 seeded Ultimate Pool professionals, one of them who is one of the best players in the world in Jordan Shepherd, it means something when we're talking about the women's game, because whenever we see women in that environment, they almost are riding for the women's game. They are trying to sort of showcase what they can do, and Harriet's been the best at doing that. But the battle is so close. I'm so excited for next year. I think we're going to have a 4-way battle for that number 1. And I think there may be some of those outside of that I just mentioned that want to get themselves in that battle as well. I think we could see some of there are players, say 5 down to say 16 are working so hard to find their way through and get their hands on the title as well. I can't wait for this year with the women's series coming up. But we're both going to tip Harriet as our player of the year for 2022. Okay, let's move on. Moment of the year. Scott, over to you. What are you thinking? What's your vote for moment of the year?
There are so many moments of the year. Can we be naughty here? We've done something because we've said that things can't be included from
that's true.
the World Championships. But my moment of the year was from the World Championships, and I know you and I have spoken about it. I think it might be your moment of the year as well. But there are so many moments over the course of the last season. But there was one that really stood out for me, Simon.
Yeah, well, let's clarify it. The World Championships, which was sponsored by Ultimate Pool, this was Ultimate Pool's event in the middle of it. The World Team Shootout was an Ultimate Pool event, which is why I'm okay with including it, but discounting for Player of the Year considerations. But Callum Singleton, during the 6 Red Shootout was incredible. I just want to mention, I think a very, very close second, we've already shown it on the show, was Shane Thompson winning the final event of the year. That was, as you said, there's so many amazing moments all year. But to have the best buzzer beater we've ever seen in the final event of the year, in the final second of the year, and you saw how much it meant to Shane, so much emotion inside, that was absolutely very, very special. That was a very close second for me. but Callum Singleton during the 6 red shootout. Let's take a look at it. Absolutely my favourite moment of the whole year. One of those that sort of made you stop and check what was going on. So World Team Shootout semi-final. Northern Ireland have got 36 seconds to beat to put their place in the final against England. And Declan Brennan and Callum Singleton came up with this.
Really good, really good. Great break.
Keep your eyes on Callum.
We can't dramatise this, folks. This will be about 25 seconds at most.
Just don't miss.
If that. Even
Cruising at this point.
Just make sure you don't foul, really. I mean, it's going to be top 20.
Checks the watch.
That was just the perfect way to do it from Callum Singleton. The cheek, the poise, the composure. It's one of those moments. It was just, I will never forget where I was when that happened. It was absolutely incredible. I love to see it. And whilst the England team may have been hurt by it, I think they all look back and realise how special that was as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want. You want a bit of personality in the game. You want a bit of passion. You also want a bit of fun. And, that is absolutely, it's just such a brilliant moment. And people speak about it, all the time, even now. That's exactly the type of moment that we want in the game. Commiserations to England. But Callum, take a bow. I still have a smile on my face watching it now. Like I really do.
That event, by the way, was my favourite event of the whole year as well, which is why maybe it carries so much weight with me in terms of the moment in the year. I thought that was the first time we've seen a shootout in a team format. It really worked. It really did. The players delivered, right from the South African team all the way through Northern Ireland, England. The players really delivered, and that was my favourite moment of my favourite day of Pool all year long. So that is why it gets my vote. So yeah, that is it. I think next year we can expand this a little bit more. We can have a look more at shots of the year, clearances of the year, and things like that. We'll see how we go throughout the year, but that will do for our sort of mini awards, if you like. What else we got to talk about? There's so much happened in the last 4 weeks since we've been away. We've missed 3 weeks of the Masters, which we're not including in the 2022 season. It is a 2023 event that started in 2022. So in those 3 weeks we missed, Dylan Leary beat Callum Singleton, who we've just been talking about. They were teammates on that occasion, but he did manage to beat Callum in that group final 8-6. Amy Beecham and Drew Hughes were also involved in that week's action. Amy did the women's series proud, pushing Dylan, but came up just short. Then we had Jordan Shepherd coming through the Masters, beating Liam Dunster in his first Ultimate Pool event as a professional. 8-3 in the final. Sheppy beat Jamie Murray, and Liam beat Luke Sanjis, another new Ultimate Pool professional in that group as well. I guess let's just touch on that night before we tell you the result of the other Masters. The first time we got to see Liam Dunster play, he wasn't at his best. He didn't look particularly comfortable, but he showed us enough in his first match against Luke Sanjis to show some of his class. And the first thing he'll tell you about the second match against Jordan Shepherd was disappointing. You can forget the rules, you can forget the cloth, you can forget everything else. He just missed a couple of pots, and things that he doesn't normally do. I think the confidence wasn't quite there. Maybe there was too much other stuff going on in his mind in terms of everything else. Just missed some balls.
Yeah, and it happens. I never thought he was human, but he was that night. There was one shot in particular where, I would probably pot it at Simon, to be fair. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but I probably would. But no, Liam didn't play to his own high standards. But don't take anything away from Sheppy. Sheppy played really well as in that final as well. And that was kind of the worst person probably for Liam to have played in a final that night, because Sheppy does not care who you are. He is going to go out and try and dominate you from start to finish.
Yeah, Sheppy, that's the thing that, there'll obviously be a lot of attention on the fact that Liam played and maybe didn't play his best in that group final, but Jordan did play well. He was so solid. Yeah, he's adding a mental toughness to his game that we've not seen before. He's working with a mental coach. It's really working for him. And I think we could be in for a very big year from Jordan Shepherd. So he's the one that goes through. And then the first Masters of 2023, that actually played in 2023, Chris Melling managed to come through, beating John Dunn 8-5. He also beat Jez Graham 8-1. John beat Ross Smith 6-5 as well. So Chris Melling continues just his consistent play with Ultimate Pool. It's amazing actually to see the level of play he's got. It's hard actually to think how well he's played over the course of the last month. He actually hasn't picked up any silver. He's been incredible. He was so close in the Pro Series. We're going to talk about the Pro Cup in a minute. He's turned himself into arguably the most consistent player Ultimate Pool over the course of the entirety of Ultimate Pool, because he was right up there last year, right up there in year one. He is going to be right up there in year three. There's no doubt about it.
Well, he is one of the greatest players of all time, Simon, so we can excuse him for keep being consistent in terms of how he plays. Listen, he's also a fan's favourite. He's brilliant to watch. You know, there's people that say his cue ball control's not fantastic, and that's why he has to make those incredible, outrageous shots. But he keeps doing it. And you tell me, everybody wants to buy a ticket to watch Chris Melling because he truly is just incredible to watch. He's, you know, one of the best there is to watch.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, he's an all-time great. He really is one of the legends of the game. But the reason I mention his consistency is the fact that this is probably the first time for 15 years, maybe 20 years, that he has concentrated on this version of the game. Yes, he's still playing some American stuff. Yeah, he's still playing 9-ball, but he's playing this week in, week out. He's actually practicing in this version of the game. He'll tell you he's not practicing much, but he is practicing. And that's where his level of play, I think, is really elevated. I actually think we talk about legends and he's been one of the best for a long time, but I still think the best is ahead for Chris Melling. I still think in terms of actual play on the table, over the next 5 to 10 years, we could see the very, very best from him. I really do, because he's concentrating on this version, and I really do think it's going to be a great period of time for Chris Melling going forward.
I hope you're right, because the viewers will be in for a treat.
They certainly will. Right, okay, so that is the Masters. That's the 3 Masters we've missed whilst we've not been doing Ultimate Pool Extra, but we have got one coming up this week in the Masters. And how about this for a lineup? Jake McCartney taking on Scott Pope, Phil Hoskins taking on Ryan Fleming. So 2 Ultimate Pool professionals in the group. Great lineup, Scott. Now, we're going to have our first pick of the year. The reason I hesitate is that I think you should get first pick in the. You did lose year one. I think you should get first pick in the Champions League, which means I would get first pick in the Masters. But I actually will give you the option. Would you rather have first pick in the Champions League or first pick here in the Masters? And then we're going to alternate each week. So there's all clear and above.
I'll let you have first pick now.
Okay, first pick. So I'm going to get first pick in the Masters. So Jake McCartney taking on Scott Pope, Phil Hoskins taking on Ryan Fleming. Now, Scott Pope is gone well with challenges. He's very exciting player, but you have to say Jake McCartney's a big favourite there. Phil Hoskins, though, he's been a big player in the Welsh international scene for a long time. We saw him in the pairs, though, and he didn't really know the rules. He's very much from the black ball side of things. I think he's going to struggle because of that in the race to 8. So I do expect to see Ryan Fleming and Jake McCartney to come through. I'm not taking anything away from Scott Pope and Phil, because they're both good enough to win those matches. So for me, it comes down to those two, the 2 Ultimate Pool professionals. We haven't actually seen much of Ryan Fleming of late. He didn't play in any of the events recently, all the qualifying. So we have seen a lot from Jake, and for me, he's playing probably better than he ever has right now. And I think he's going to be a big favourite for this week. He looked so good in the qualifying and in the Pro Cup we've just seen. I think it's the best we've ever seen from him. So I can't ignore the big Aussie.
I'll go Ryan Fleming.
Yeah, there you go. Short and sharp, one of Scotland's finest, Ryan Fleming, for you then. So that is our picks for this week, and that means that we will alternate. So you'll get first pick in the Masters next week as well. So, just to make sure it's all clear and above board. I don't want to be accused of cheating. Okay. Where are we? Okay, let's move on to the Pro Cup. Our first event of 2023 on BT Sport, happened between Christmas and New Year. Jack Whelan took down the first title of 2023. Fantastic performance from Jack, beating Sean Story in the final. A very, very tight and tense final, it has to be said. But what a tournament. I thought the show on BT last year was fantastic. The show on BT this year was absolutely brilliant, Scott, and fantastic from Jack Whelan.
Yeah, a great advert for the game overall. There's so many different matches that we could probably talk about. A particular one that I really enjoyed was Tom Ford versus Jordan Shepherd. That was a really interesting match to watch. You had so many golden breaks. You had so many wonderful moments. Sean Story got himself out of the name Semi Story, which was great. But Jack Whelan, he threatened this in the Champion of Champions. What a terrific player! What a great ambassador for the game, and a thoroughly deserved winner.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved. He's a proper pro, isn't he? He really is one of the very best players in the world, former world champion. He's now won his second title with Ultimate Pool. He's very, very dedicated. He works very hard on his game, and it takes big performances to beat him. Very rare to see his level drop. We saw him in the semi-final against Jordan Shepherd for the second year in a row, and he was able to get over the line this time. Just want to touch on Jordan Shepherd. He was very, very ill when he played his first round, so he had to play 2 matches, in a really bad place. He found himself 4-0 down to Arfan Dad and somehow got over the line. A little bit, Arfan will be the first star. You gave him a little bit of help. It wasn't all Jordan that turned that one around. But then against Aaron Davies, who'd knocked out Carl Boyes dramatically and easily, you have to say, he took Carl apart. Carl really didn't get involved in the match much. Aaron was all but flawless. He made 1 safety error in the match against Jordan Shepherd, 5-1 up, and he ended up losing. And Sheppy just all of a sudden, he played lights out pool like only he can when he was really, really ill. Incredible for Sheppy to make it through to the semi-finals.
Born to play this format. He really is. He's born to play this. The way his brain thinks, he thinks, he's arguably got the quickest brain in pool, just the way he can see shots and understand how it's going to work out. And he doesn't panic in this format, which is kind of, you do quite often see people just fall to bits a little bit with the short shot clock, etc. Listen, he's terrific, and it's no surprise to it took a great performance from Jack to relieve him of his crown, because you wouldn't have backed against him, making it 2 in a row.
Well, you would have done it 4-0 down, looking like you couldn't put a ball against Arfan Dad, but somewhere he's managed to dig something out, because he was given some help, but you still got to pot the balls. And then against Aaron, he was absolutely fantastic. And then 2 days later, he turns up and plays a bit more like Jordan Shepherd. Brilliant performance from Jordan to make it through to the semi-finals. A great defence of his title, and all credit to the hard work he's doing off the table, especially on the mental side of the game, because he may have been 4-0 down, 5-1 down. He never showed it. And if those of you that have watched Jordan in his career, he'll tell you what his score is just by looking at his body language. Other things worth talking about. Yeah, Sean Story getting over the line. I think it was 4 straight semi-finals he had lost before finally getting over the line. Jake McCartney was fantastic making it through to the semi-finals. He really was. I said it's the best I've seen him play. Came up just short against Sean. And Sean actually almost made a completely different storyline in that final. He almost pulled out the clearance of the ever. The balls were dreadful. He waited for it. He waited. You knew what he was going to do. It was the weirdest frame of pool we've seen with Ultimate Pool. With 8 minutes left in the first set against Jack Whelan, the balls came out horrible, and both of them started just tying the balls up. Jack Whelan was basically saying, "Okay, let's take a draw, move on." Sean was having different ideas. He was saying, "Okay, I just want to have one opportunity with 40 seconds left on the clock, knowing I can't be counter-cleared." And whether there was some great shots, whether there was a bit of luck in there as well, he ended up on a very, very thin black to win, and he left it on the jaws, and he ended up on the floor. If that goes in, it's a hard one, I think, for Jack Whelan to turn around. And fortunately for him, it didn't go in. They share the first set, and Jack wins the second set. I mean, what a frame! That's the weirdest frame of pool I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a completely bizarre frame. I'll be honest with you, that would have been one time I would love to have seen a 6-red shootout in that match, because both of those would have been capable of posting unbelievable times.
Yeah, we've seen. I mean, Jack needed to come through the 6-red against Chris Melling, so he had previous. Interestingly, the statistic I was looking at, because I find the two set matches kind of a little bit strange. In not does it work? Doesn't it work? We've had, I think, nearly 40 matches now of 2-set matches with Ultimate Pool Players Championship and the Pro Cup. The player that's won the first set has won all but 3 of them. But weirdly, Jack has come from behind twice. Twice he's been able to turn it around. It's only happened 3 times, and he's done it twice in 40-odd goes. It's quite incredible, really. Fascinating to see how the sort of evolution of the 2-set matches go, whether that continues to play out that way. But the first set appears to be the big key.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally agree. Well, you've got something to defend, really, haven't you,
Yeah.
for a start, and that kind of maybe makes you think a little bit differently because you're one ahead. The best your opponent can do is force a 6-red shootout, so maybe it does make you play a little bit differently. We'll have to go back and watch all of those 2-set matches again, Simon, see if there's a bit of a pattern emerging there.
Yeah. One last thing I want to mention about the Pro Cup as well. I thought that Mark Fleming, I just want a special mention for him. First event with Ultimate Pool, the Scotsman came up with pretty special, beating Gareth Potts in his first match and also managing to get over Rob Warren in the second match, and probably the highest quality match we saw through the whole tournament. Was absolutely incredible. A great debut from Mark Fleming. I thought the way the draw panned out, I thought Gareth would be very, very dangerous in this event, and he didn't get past Mark Fleming, and that's all credit to Mark. So exciting to see how he'll go with Ultimate Pool going forward, but a great debut for sure. So that is the Pro Cup on BT. I do want to mention one more thing with the Pro Cup, actually, Scott, is the fact that it was on BT Sport, which meant if you were in the UK, you couldn't watch on the Ultimate Pool app. Now, I saw a little bit of negativity on this online on social media. If you're outside the UK, it's fine. I think it's worth just highlighting the point that the Pro Cup was a BT Sport event, a BT Sport funded event. They paid for the broadcast, of which there's a lot of people there. They paid for me. They paid for Stephen. It's a BT funded event, therefore, it can't be on the app as well. And if BT hadn't have funded it, there would have been no event. So the people that were sort of saying, "Oh, it should have been on the app," I just think it's worth making that point because hopefully once you hear that, it makes sense.
Well, yeah. The other thing is, well, and I've got to be, I'm going to be honest here. I read some of that social media stuff, and you have people saying, I've not had value for money, etc. I think that Ultimate Pool provided it was about 1,300 hours worth of live pool content over the course of 2022. So you're probably looking for your yearly subscription about 6 pence an hour for your live pool, which it doesn't seem like an awful lot of money when you break it down from that perspective. The other thing as well, Simon, believe it or not, pool is not the only sport I watch. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. I know you thought that I just watched pool, but I'm a big boxing fan. Now, for me to watch all the boxing I want to watch, I've got to have my DAZN subscription. I've got to have my Sky Sports subscription. I've got to have my BT subscription, and also I probably pay for about 8 or 9 pay-per-views a year. So in terms of value, maybe I'm not getting my full value out of my boxing, but certainly this year, over the course of the Ultimate Pool season, I've certainly got value out of my subscription. And the other thing as well, the BT Sport event will always help the game grow because it's played amongst a bigger audience where, people might not necessarily have watched Ultimate Pool before, but what they might do is flick on to BT Sport because they've got a BT Sport subscription and watch pool for the first time. And you certainly see that through kind of the social media interactions that happen when the BT Sport event's on. I don't think Ultimate Pool gets as many mentions on social media when the BT event's on. So it's all part of the growth of the game. And for those that feel hard done by, unfortunately you missed maybe 32 hours worth of coverage, but you've got another 1,268 hours in the bank for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I suspect most people that once they hear that it's a BT event, it's as simple as that, and therefore it is the right thing to do. So anyway, just wanted to make that point because just wanted to sort of defend Ultimate Pool a little bit there. Right, let's move on. The Champions League is back, starts on Monday. Stevie Dempsey is the defending champion. Chris Melling won in year 1. And we have a cracking lineup here now that we're in year 3 because it is a Shark Tank. Because 64-man event, all 64 players are pros. They had to be qualifying to get down to 64. Let's take a look at the lineup. This is the top half of the draw. We're going to start off on January the 9th. Chris Melling is the top seed. But there is some groups there that, every group is... I keep looking at these groups and look at another one and then another one. What a lineup, Scott.
Yeah, unbelievable. There's so many groups there that stand out for me. But we kick off with a decent group, to be fair. And there's, this is an opportunity for us to see 2 brand new Ultimate Pool professionals as well, which is always exciting to see new players. So you know, I'm really looking forward to the Champions League this season.
Yeah, it should be good. A few key dates for your diary there. January 16th, get to see Stephen Maguire for the first time. He's one of the snooker professionals that hasn't really played pool. Be fascinated to see how he gets on. Mark Allen, who looks so good in the Pro Series, another snooker professional, taking on Jordan Shepherd and Carl Morris and Phil Parkin, what group that is. The world champion on the January the 30th, Tom Ford's in that group as well. Jack Whelan and Ian Alley. Joe O'Connor, he made a snooker professional but has huge history in the pool world as well. And then on February 27th, we finally get to see Mark Williams in the Champions League. Can't wait to see that. That should be absolutely fantastic. And that's the defending champion as well in Stevie Dempsey. That's the top half of the draw. Let's have a look at the bottom half of the draw. Some more incredible groups. Shane Thompson, who went so well, will be on March the 6th. Gareth Potts, what a group that is. Liam Dunster, Ryan Day and Gio Edgar on the 27th of March. So many good groups. I mean, you could just, every single one of them it's going to be so tough each week to call. Our job as a picking battle has just got an awful lot harder.
The harder it is, the less likely you are to do well, Simon, to be fair. So I'm quite happy.
Fair enough. Well, let's get straight on then. Okay, Champions League starts on Monday. You asked for the first pick. So you've got Chris Melling, Cleve Thompson, Luke Gilbert and Gary Clark. Which way are you going?
Could make a case certainly for Luke Gilbert and Gary Clark. I actually quite like watching Cleve Thompson and his last foray on TV. It was quite fun, quite entertaining. Listen, you're going to give me stick, but I've got to pick the favourite. I'm going Chris Melling.
Yeah, I actually think this may be one of the easier groups to pick, and that doesn't make it easy because I still think it's really tough because you can make a case. I certainly think you can make a case for Luke Gilbert. I think he's tracking in the right direction. I am going to pick Luke Gilbert for that reason. I think he's certainly heading in the right direction. But Gary Clark, I'm a big fan of watching Gary play. He's done very well with Northern Ireland. And you are right, Cleve Thompson, he's very entertaining to watch. He's going to go for his shots. And he's going to tell us about it as well with his body language. He's going to be a lot of fun out there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Cleve play. I do agree. I think Chris is a good favourite for this group, but you've picked him, so I'm going to go for Luke Gilbert. So that is our picks there. That is it. That's the Champions League. It all gets underway on Monday. A couple little things left to discuss. We've got some coaching coming up. The Ultimate Pool coaching is really expanding. There's a coaching clinic happening in Taunton on February the 27th. There's Dan Wells, your co-host from the Ultimate Pool podcast. He's heavily involved in the coaching side of things. If you do want to get involved in that coaching, then check out the Ultimate Pool social media and website, and you'll be able to go and check that out and potentially book your place on that coaching course. Coaching, it's a big thing actually, Scott, isn't it? I just want to quickly touch on that. Big push for 2023 from Ultimate Pool to really help with coaching and not just getting coached, but also helping people become coaches.
Yeah, and it's also to help support the grassroots game, is my understanding, because oddly, the better you get at something, the more you tend to enjoy to do it. I've been lucky. I've had a couple of lessons, and the thing I've struggled with, before you criticise and say you struggle with everything, is my break. And since I've been worked with by an Ultimate Pool coach, my break has all of a sudden got an awful lot better. I can control the white on the break, which is normally it was screwed into the top right pocket every time, but I'm managing to keep the white on the table now.
Well, maybe we'll have a more challenging game next time we get to play. Then I'll give you. I gave you too much respect last time. I'm going to give you none next time, so you maybe have more chance. But yeah, definitely, coaching definitely works. I'm a big believer in it. I'm a huge golf fan, as you know. I love getting away from pools by playing golf, and I'll always go and see my local guy because it just keeps me in check. And I think the pool world definitely should follow suit. And it's great to see Ultimate Pool doing that. So if you want to become a coach, then you can do that with Ultimate Pool. Or if you want to get coaching, you can do that with Ultimate Pool as well. Well worth checking it out. One last thing I want to talk about is Ultimate Pool Scotland, a franchise now. Mark and Ryan Fleming heavily involved in this, but this is, I think, quite groundbreaking from Ultimate Pool, really starting to spread their wings.
Yeah, it is, and what a great venue and two great guys who understand the nuances of pool to kind of get it kicked off. It's an opportunity to spread the gospel of Ultimate Pool in Scotland, and the Fleming brothers are well known and well respected in Scotland. I'm expecting to see these pop up all over the world, if I'm honest, because Ultimate Pool has got the brand and the platform to help aid the growth of pool in all these other countries, and that can only be exciting for the future.
Yeah, it certainly is. It will hope. It's great for each country, but it's going to help the top end game as well. We'll see, great players coming through from all of these countries. Obviously, we know a lot of top players already from Scotland, but it's great to see. So one of those, watch this space. It'll be fascinating to see how that all evolves. I'm excited to see it, and I know in Ryan and Mark's hands, it's in pretty safe hands as well. Both really, really good guys from the pool world. Final thing I want to mention is the Ultimate Pool shop. If you do want to go and buy any Ultimate Pool merchandise, then make sure you go and check out the Ultimate Pool shop. Get yourself a hoodie, get yourself tops. There's all sorts on there. Cues, chalk, anything and everything you can think about that you need from the pool world. It is on there, so make sure you go and check that out. Scott, thanks for joining me again. It's been 4 tough weeks not having Ultimate Pool Extra. It's great to be back for season 2, especially as I am the winner of season 1. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this season goes.
Oh, me too. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this season goes, Simon. Really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you all for watching. Really looking forward to the year ahead, as we just said. Make sure you tune in on Monday for the Champions League, Wednesday for the Masters, and of course, we'll be back next week for a roundup of all the action. So we'll see you then.